Hi everybody, Diana here. Welcome to Patches and Pieces Monday. This is Heartfelt Creative. Thanks so much for joining me today. I just got a little bit of a surprise when I started to record this video. The computer told me recording in progress. It's never had any kind of audio before, so I actually had to start this twice because it took me back. I stopped and I wasn't speaking. So anyway, something new happens all the time here. Welcome to the studio. I'm so glad you could join me today for another episode of Patches and Pieces. And today's block is really not a single block. It's a single technique, but boy, can you do a lot with it. And I call it hidden figures. The actual base block is something that some of you may have seen before. It's called the hidden well, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn my camera over and we're going to get started, okay? There we go. And I promised myself this week that I was going to get better at getting everything into the camera. I noticed I did a video last week for my Good Gadget series, and everything was like way down here and you can only see a little bit. And I was really sad that I had done that. So all right, so here's the block, and you notice it's not sewn together yet, and there's a reason behind that, because this block is like the ultimate jigsaw block. But this is technically the hidden well block. I guess if you look at it where you're kind of looking down a well, it's wider at the top and it gets smaller into the bottom, and this is the land around the well itself. So you can kind of see where you could call that a hidden well. Some of the pieces are off there. Anyway, so the cool thing about this block, though, is that when you make it, you get actually 4 pieces, and they look like that. So that's really cool because you got color kind of everywhere. Now, you can I've done this block in prints, but they're what I call ditzy prints, or prints that look like solids when you step back. So they work as a solid. So this tiny, tiny little Swiss dot in the purple, this really lovely, I think this fabric is actually called Doodle. It's in a soft white on this soft aqua. And then this one, the yellow with the swirls on it. It's not a print that goes, ooh, I'm a print. It goes, oh, I'm a print. Or if you're standing far away, I could look like it's a solid. It's a good filler print. It's a good background print. And because I don't work in a lot of total solids in my work, I thought this would show you this block better. Because if I did it in a lot of really bold prints, you'd still see it, but the color kinds of messes together a little bit. And I think it makes it harder to see. But the cool thing that you can do with this block, we're going to bring our purple ones back in. So there we have that main block, right? Now we're going to come over here and we're going to nest these up so that this piece matches this piece and these match, and the same down here. Now this is going to be kind of tricky to show, but I think I can do it if I back this up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Let's get this all out of the way because you're going to have to kind of look. Let me actually slide this over a little bit more. We'll get into the actual sewing here in a minute, but just want you to kind of see what you can do with this. So here we have this one nestled up with this one. So again, we have, this is our hidden well right here. This is our hidden well right here. But look at these secondary figures you're making. Look what that would look like if it was taken out to be a larger quilt. Look at how this one would start making a lattice shape. If you did these as a big quilt, you would get a huge lattice looking pattern. Or in this case, you could also, let's put these together this way. Let's see, I want this one. No, what? I want it this way, there we go. So there you go, we're starting to build this in this vertical idea. So now this piece, right, trying to see where it is on the camera, there we go. This piece right here is going this way, and then you're starting to get different figures here. Here we're here, it's here and here, so we can see this secondary shape taking place here. I mean, you can do so much with this block, but this isn't all. You can really play with this, and the really cool thing, when you start with the base, which I'm going to show you now, you can do more with the base that's even going to give you more figures, more shapes. So let's just take these out again and go back down to our basic hidden well shape. There we go. So we're going to talk about now the actual sewing. How do we put this together? So for the pieces I've just showed you, I've started out with a strip set that are 3 2.5-inch strips. I chose one for my middle and then my 2 outers. And for all of these, I kept this same order. If you played with the order, it would play with how these look when you put them together. If you added a 4th strip, you would get even different patterns. If you changed the size of your strip, so let's say 2.5-inch, 1.5-inch, 2.5-inch, you'd get different shapes, a different kind of lattice look. If you did 1.5 and 1.5 and 2.5 in the middle, different lattice again. So depending on how you make this strip set, whatever you do with it, whatever your colors are, patterns and solids, all patterns, all solids. So if you did all of this in solids in an ombre effect, say a deep red into an orange into a pink color, and did kind of an ombre, or a dark blue into a medium blue into a light blue, anything that's ombre like that, wow, you can really get some different effects going on when you go to put all the squares together. So this block, I'm not telling you there is one base thing that you have to do to make this, because this is really your imagination at play. Like I said, you can do your own jigsaw block with this kind of an effect. So what I've done here is I've just started off with 3 13.5-inch strips, because I know that's going to give me my 2 base blocks that I need to make these. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to clean up my edge. Clean up my edge just like that. That wasn't too bad to start with. Now I'm going to flip it around. Now remember, you'll be going in the other direction if you're right-handed. I'm a lefty, so. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure, and I've talked about this in other videos that I've done for patches and pieces. When you want to square up a strip set, the basic formula for doing that is you measure your height from top to bottom, and then whatever that is, that's how much you come over in your width, and that gives you a square. Because remember, our squares, all 4 sides are the same length. That's a square. So I think this should be roughly 6 and a little bit. Let's get this. Do some measuring. 5, 6. Yeah, it's about 6 1/4. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1/4 right there. I'm going to line my 1/4 inch up on that edge. Everything's nice and even. Get my thumb out of the way. I tend to want to put my thumb out here. Look what would happen if I did that. Oops, not good. So I try to keep my thumb in just for safety's sake. I made one cut there. Now I have one square. Let's bring over the rest of our strip set. And again, let's measure out 6 1/4. Right there. Now, sometimes when you're doing strip sets and you're cutting, you're going to find that this edge might start to get a little wonky. If it does, and you can't just really match that up nicely. Oh, I'm sorry about that overhead light. Let me, hang on. It gives you some really bad glare there. Let's see if I can, if I turn that light off, can you still see? Yeah, you can still see pretty good. So back to what I was saying, sorry. So if you find that your edge here starts to get out of square, you could say, turn it back around and cut yourself a clean edge again. Don't just keep cutting on that wonky edge, because then you won't be having squares and you'll get upset. Your stuff won't turn out properly. So right here, we're on 6 1/4. And again, so because I knew the size of my squares to start, I just have a little bit of waste there. But normally I would do a whole with the fabric strip there, and I would make a whole bunch of squares. So I'm going to take my square ruler and set that across. Okay, or set that aside. All right, so now I have 2 squares that look exactly alike. So I want to place one of them with the strips going in the horizontal, side to side. Then I want to take my other one and turn it upside down with the strips going in the vertical. Okay, that's important. All righty. So now, normally when I do this type of thing, I'm going to clip around the side. But because of what we're going to do next, I actually am going to pin. So I'm going to take these little glass head pins. If you're going to use pins, I suggest you go ahead and buy good ones that are glass head pins, because then if you iron over them, press over them, you're not going to melt anything. So if you notice what I'm doing, I'm kind of pinning these 2 blocks together. And kind of, I guess you could almost say a funky little X shape right here, just to keep the 4 corners together. And what we're going to do now when we go to the sewing machine is we are going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around the block. You don't need to leave a turning gap, nothing like that, just 1/4 inch all the way around. So let me flip the camera over, and we are going to sew this. We're going to use 1/4 inch like we always do when we're doing patchwork piecing. Let me slip on my little magnifying glasses. Oh, good. There we go. Everything comes into view. Setting up my 1/4 inch. I'm using a regular 2.5 stitch length, putting my needle down. What did we used to do, folks, before we had needle down? And I'm just going to go around the whole square 1/4 inch. You always had to remember to stop and put your needle down before you would lift your foot. And I slow down when I go over my seams because I've pressed all of my seams outward. And I have one more edge here to do. And I just sew right off. I don't have to worry about lining up with this seam that comes. So like I've been coming around and stopping at 1/4 inch. When I come down this last side, I just sew right off the edge. That's perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. All right, just gonna clip my threads. Now we're gonna come back to the other camera. And so I know you all are still waiting for me to get the new streaming service and all going. I'll just be honest, last week I worked on it this percent, big zero. I had so much going on. In this coming week, I have equally as much going on. So as much as I wanted this to be the week that we started using the new system, it's probably going to be another week or two. It's just the way life has turned out. So you got to roll with the punches, right? So I'm still rotating through the camera. Sorry about that. So let me flip the camera back over to the overhead. Now let's bring this right back down here. There we go. So now I've got a 1/4 inch all the way around. I'm going to take out my pins into my big green tomato. Any of you are from the southern part of the United States, you know about fried green tomatoes. They're the best. And it's just getting about that time in the summer, here in about another 4 to 6 weeks, where we can start making our own fried green tomatoes again. So I'm bringing up my rotating mat. If you don't have a rotating mat, I highly suggest one if you're into piecing your quilts, because this one is a 12 inch. I also have one that's smaller. I think it's like a 6 or an 8 inch. And I think they even make one that's bigger. They make them that are round. They make them that are on little bitty ball bearings. So they really move. This one happens to be by Fiskars. It's just the one that was available years ago when I got mine. So it just rotates on this little disc, and you can see here, this little hole. This one was not horribly expensive. They can be a little pricey, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of mechanics that go into these, especially the ones with the ball bearings, and they're worth every penny when it comes to doing stuff like we're doing now. So what I'm going to do is, you notice I've placed my square on point. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line up point to point, just like we were cutting a half square triangle. And I'm just going to cut across this way. And I'm going to turn, putting into my mat there. I'm going to rotate my mat around. So I've not moved anything. Everything is still nice and lined up. And that's where it gets really nice with rotating mats, because so you want to do this. I'll say you can get away with doing this across the top, because Lord knows I do. But in all honesty, with this, you turn with every side. And the nice thing is that you're always making that straight cut, and you're not trying to make your arm and your body into a pretzel. And that's when you can really get hurt. So yes, I do this across the top occasionally, but I try to be good. Now that I have this actually like sitting right below the main table, I use it all the time. I'm much better at it. But please don't ever come across over the top where your elbow is way out here and do this, because look, you're just asking to get off track and cut and come right across here and lose a finger. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to keep safety first on that one. All right, so I've got my ruler lined up again. I'm just using my normal rotary cutter, and I've made that cut. Take my piece off, and now I have 4 squares. Set this aside, and I'm going to bring over my iron and my little pressing mat. These pressing mats are another thing. We just shouldn't be without them anymore. You get like this one, this little guy sits right next to my sewing machine. And so the little iron sits there, so I can turn it on if I'm doing like small half square triangles in a row and just get them nice pressed. If I have to like keep going, or like here, I can bring it over to the main table. I got the big one sitting here. It actually has the equipment on it at the moment for this video. So, but I can just bring this one right here. I love these. Okay, so now we have our 4 little, basically we've made half square triangles. That's basically what we've made. I'm trying to find, oh, there it is. Had my precision piecing pen, which I love. So as I take these, I'm going to press these. So you have two sides to these. One side is like this. It has the wider strip and the smaller strip. And then if you notice on the other side, you've got the 3 strips. So I press mine I fold the wider, smaller piece this way. So but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prep that seam. Again, this is Acorn's Precision Piecing product. I love this stuff. I'm going to turn that out, give it a press. I have my clapper here. If you don't know what this is, you can check out my other videos. I even show you how to use this on Good Gadgets, episode 1, I believe. Look at that nice flat seam. Oh my gosh. No bumps there. That's beautiful. I love that. So we're going to do that with all 4. Oh, so I was off here a little bit. Oh, this was the outer bit. My base square was a little. It's also going to cost me there. So I may have to redo this one. Take good attention there. It always gets me when I'm on camera. Flatten that out. So if you remember your tailor's clapper, what it does is it absorbs the heat from the pressing to cool that off and set that seam quickly for you. And you get 4 pieces from every 2 base squares that you use. Okay. Realized there was some dead air there. I'm not supposed to do that, they tell me, but sometimes you get to concentrating. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. We're going to set the pressing mat and the iron back over. Because I should tell you, I have accidentally knocked that iron on the ground and burned the mat that I stand on. Remember to turn that off. So because the cord, I got my foot caught up in the cord, it was a mess. Alrighty, so now I'm going to take my little square up ruler. This one happens to be from my fave and maybe yours. Just trying to see what it says on here actually. Oh, okay. From Tula Pink, and it says Tula Hardware. I never saw that word before. It says Tula Hardware. This is a little square up ruler. This is a 4.5 inch, which is great for this particular little project. Because I'm squaring these up. I'm just putting the diagonal right on the diagonal. I'm squaring these up to like 3 7/8. It's kind of a weird number, but it's just to get, so you're going to see me do this now. It's just to get a little bit of the edges off and get these trimmed up, because there's not much trimming up on this one that I have to do. Okay. Now you're seeing me cut with my right hand. Let me tell you, that is so stinking dangerous for me because my right hand doesn't know how to do anything properly. Let me just snip that off. Do any of you use these? They're little magnets, right? This one says fabric, and you put them around the scissor that's only for fabric. And they come, and that way you know. And then if you have like my sewing table is actually metal, so it sticks there, so these don't fall on the floor. But they let everybody know fabric only, right? So the problem with them is, I found though, I also have my little precision snips from OESD. Whenever I go to pick them up, it's a pretty strong little handle. Look at that, or a little magnet. So I'm always picking up like anything that's close to it. So I've squared up here. Let me square up another one. Well, we'll go ahead and square up all 4 of them, because then I'm going to bring back in my previous ones and we can play a little bit more with layout. So I've been teaching myself how to really slowly use my right hand with my rotary cutter. But I feel like I'm pressing into the ground when I do it because I'm so scared I'm going to slip. This is definitely a scenario where I should get my rotating mat out. So in the instance of do as I say and not as I do, let's pull that out and be safe, shall we? That's a better idea. All right. So we're going to line that up. So just a little bit right there. See, I'm only squaring these up just threads, basically, just to keep them all the same size. And the other one's good, so I just need to take my little dog ears off there. Let's make sure. Do one on the sides. No, I've got one more side. That still look a little bit large. Roll that up now. Rotate my mat like I'm supposed to. I should just have my small mat out. But then hold it and slice it. See, that's the way you should do it. There we go. All right, so we have those. We'll just do those 2 for now. But now we'll bring back in all of our squares and we can play. So I'm going to put my yellows together. Just like this. So this is our hidden well. I can put them together like this, and look what I get. A little X, just like you were going to do hugs and kisses blocks. You could do that there. Let's see what that looks like when I do them all, use all the same blocks instead of the alternate blocks. Okay. So we've got that same idea. It's not, these are separate. Okay, so I see what this is going to happen here. You're going to have 2 that are 2 color and 2 that are, there we go. You're going to have 2 that are 2 color and 2 that are solid. So I would play around with that to see, is this going to make a significant shape? What's that going to look like? But then what if I did them really kind of like a pinwheel effect? I don't even know if maybe this would work as a pinwheel effect. I don't know. Let's just give that a try. So that would kind of be, that kind of looks like a pinwheel effect. Let me, there we go. We need to have this in the middle like that, I think. No, like this. I don't know. So just play with them and have fun doing it and figure out all kinds of different ways. And when you start putting them all together, like I said, you're going to find out you get a really beautiful lattice look going on in a large quilt. So if you did these all in the same color way for a whole quilt, you could do some really beautiful lattice looking quilts. So let's put that one there. And So that kind of gives a different look. That's kind of interesting. So I would just play and play and play until you find what you want. But that's your basic block right there, your hidden well. But I call the overall block your hidden figures because there's so many different things you can do. Again, I'm gonna flip the cameras around again. Oh, the camera slid over there by the sewing machine. So you can try doing it with 4 strips. Try doing it with different size strips. You're going to get a whole different look with that, especially when the lattice effect starts to take place. So I love blocks like this because I'll just make a pile of these, and then I have one of those cardboard fold out cutting mats that you can use for sewing apparel. Like if you don't have a big cutting table, you can put it on a bed or you can put it on a floor. It's like a trifold, but I think it's a 4-fold, and it's just this big piece of cardboard. It's got a grid and all on it, and you can use it to lay out your pattern and your fabric and cut it and stuff, because you don't typically use this. You use regular cutting shears. And so what I'll do is I'll make a big pile of these and I'll lay that out flat on the floor. So I have a big space with nothing on it, and then I just start playing around, and that's how things come out. And that's how you have those aha moments and go, oh, wow, I really love that. And then before you know it, you've got a whole new quilt to do, to finish and to have quilted. So I hope you enjoyed working with the Hidden Figures blocks with me today. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Patches and Pieces, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.